Hello and welcome to this tutorial video on the Saskatchewan Breeding Bird Atlas website. We're going to walk through the website so you become familiar with it and are able to navigate it in an efficient way. My name is Jared Clark. I am a regional coordinator for the Atlas and specifically in Region 8. So let's get started here. This is the homepage. If you Google Saskatchewan Breeding Bird Atlas, you're going to find this website, but the website address is skbirdatlas.ca. The homepage talks a little bit about what the Saskatchewan Breeding Bird Atlas is. As you know, a 5-year project, a citizen science project, which is trying to systematically cover Saskatchewan and get a better feel for what birds are breeding in what areas and in what abundance. So how common are they in those different areas? So the homepage kind of talks a little bit about that. We've got the partners listed on the bottom. Bird Studies Canada is leading this project with support from the Government of Canada, Nature Conservancy of Canada, Nature Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan Wildlife Federation, and the Government of Saskatchewan. We have the supporters that are nicely scrolling by here. So having a look here, we'll start with the Atlas, the first tab, the Atlas. It talks a little bit more about the Atlas and then gives us some of the Atlas regions. So Saskatchewan, I talked about how we're trying to systematically cover the province. And so the province has been divided up into 16 different regions. So I live just outside of Edenwald, so I am in Region 7 here, but I am the regional coordinator for Region 8 along with my wife Kristen. So we cover the volunteers who are working within Region 8. So it's important to know these regions just because when we look at the checklist and that kind of thing, it's just important to know what area, what region you're birding in. So here they are all up here. Number 7 is Wascana. Number 8 is the Qu'Appelle region. So that is in the Atlas. We can also look at the partners, personnel, supporters, and there's newsletters that are published with some frequency from the Atlas, so you can get that there. But we're going to jump ahead to tools and resources and specifically instructions and forms. So the easiest way here to get involved in the Atlas is just basically to go out bird watching, like you normally would go out bird watching. But what we're asking you to do is now while you're bird watching, you're kind of looking for bird behaviors that might suggest the birds are breeding, probably breeding, possibly breeding, or really you're not seeing any evidence to suggest that they're breeding. So like a pelican flies over a field. Probably not breeding in the field. It's just probably commuting between its colony and feeding grounds, possibly. So anyways, general atlasing is what you would be doing, going out and bird watching and looking for those clues about what the birds are doing. So you're going to want to read these instructions. This is really important. So you download the instructions. It gives you an idea of how much time you need to spend, it gives you an idea of kind of the protocol of how we want you to go about entering and collecting that data. The point counts are if you are able to identify pretty much every bird that you're able to see and hear. So being able to identify birds by sound is really important for point counts. So if you're going to be participating in point counts, here are the instructions here. And then we have an appendices for both point counts and general atlasing, which you'll want to download here. On this side, we have the region atlas checklists. So let's click on checklist number 8. And what's going on here is we've reduced the number of species on each checklist that we would expect to be in the region so that you don't have a really long checklist all the time. So birds in region 16, the northern Saskatchewan, are going to be a little bit different or quite different from region 8. So let's click on region 8, see what it looks like. Really encourage you to use these checklists. They're really a good way of recording your data and making sure you collect the correct data that needs to be entered for the Atlas, for the data to work. So we have the Atlaser's name, location, the day, the start time, the duration, and the Atlas square. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But basically, it's the birds that we would expect in Region 8. We've got the breeding evidence codes already on the sheet, so you've always got those with you. Again, a nice reason to use these Atlas checklists. So pretty straightforward. We also have the point count forms. So if you are doing point counts, we've got pre-made forms for you to use. We also have the rare and colonial species form. So this is if you see something that's really quite rare and provincially rare is designated on your Atlas checklist with this little cross, and regionally rare with the double cross. If you're seeing birds like that, we want a little bit more detail so you can support your observations, and we know that you've seen what you've seen. So including a little bit of how you know that that bird is that bird, what it was doing. If we're talking colonial species, maybe you found a great horn or a great blue heron rookery, and you're going to record that you found 10 nests. There were 2 to 3 chicks in each of the nests at various stages of development. So an important form to be carrying with you as well. There's also a breeding evidence code, so just a single sheet instead of what's on the regional checklist, but if you're using these, you already have them there in a dashboard sign for the back of your vehicle if you want to put that in your car so people know that you're not a creep, you're just bird watching. Data summaries gives us an idea of kind of how much, where we're at so far with the Atlas and how much time and everything has gone in. So it gives you an idea. So how many checklists and how much time has been spent in each of the regions, how many point counts. So there's some cool stuff, regional summaries, species lists, participant statistics. So you can see how you're stacking up if you've got that competitive edge. Breeding maps are also on here, which are really cool. So this is all of the data that's been collected in year 1 has gone into here. So we can look up American avocet and we can see where they have been seen in Saskatchewan in this first year, and we can tell what kind of breeding evidence has been found. So possible breeding, so they were at sloughs where they could be breeding, probable breeding. They were doing some behavior that suggests maybe that they were breeding, and then the red is confirmed. So you can see these are the squares where avocets were seen in year 1. So lots of cool stuff that you can look at and page through. There's an Atlas quiz to check on your abilities and different codes and breeding dates and all that kind of stuff. When we do some data entry, which we're not going to deal with on this video, this is where you're going to come to enter your data. So getting involved, if you are going to do any kind of data entry, you need to register. So here's also, you can contact the Atlas folks, the regional coordinators. We've got upcoming events. There's travel support if you're going to far distant places in the province that you might not go to otherwise, just besides just atlasing. So there's some support financially there. But we're going to register real quick, and it's really straightforward to register. So you just need to come up with a login name, a password, confirm that password, put your first name in, your last name, and there. And then you want to get a newsletter from Birds Sighted Canada. I always want to know what's going on with conservation in this country, so it's good stuff. This is all optional. And then the survey regions. So we talked about how it's divided up into these different regions. I bird mostly in region 7 and region 8. So I'm going to check these 2 boxes. And what this is going to do is it's going to send the regional coordinator of these 2 regions an email saying, hey, Jared Clark just registered, and he's planning to be birding in these regions. So now as a regional coordinator, I can reach out to Jared and say, hey, I'm regional coordinator for region 8. How can I best support you? What are your plans? And we can kind of talk about where we're going to go. So then I'm just going to connect here, and I am not a robot. And then you're just going to register, and that's going to be it. So the one other thing that I haven't talked about is in tools and resources, and that's the downloadable maps. So if we go to downloadable maps, we talked about the different regions. So I'm going to pull the regional map up for Qu'Appelle. And we've talked a little bit about the 10 kilometer squares. So 10 kilometer by 10 kilometers. So region 8 is now divided up into these 10 kilometer by 10 kilometer squares. And each of these squares has a name or like a numeric code. So the red square means that it's a priority square. So these are every priority square across the province needs to be covered in the 5 years. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna do this square, 13UES 64. So this is my square, it's just north of my place. So I'm gonna go in here, I'm gonna type that in, and then I'm gonna get a PDF map specifically of 13UES 64. So this is a nice little map. It shows me, hey, here are the gravel roads, here's Dysart, here's the type of cover that I expect. So no coniferous forest, no broadleaf forest. 86% of this square is annual crops. We've got some perennial crops and pasture land, some wetlands and that sort of thing. So I can get a feel for where I'm going to go. I can use this, I can print this map off and I can, I like to shade the route that I've gone on. So I know next year, hey, I already did this kind of corner last year, so I'm going to really focus up on this corner or whatever. These numbers here are the point counts. So if I'm doing point counts, those are where I'm at. So yeah. So again, that is the tools and instructional forms. Now the piece with the 10 kilometer by 10 kilometer squares, you don't have to take a square, but the regional coordinators and what we're hoping people will want to do is take a square. And then you're assigned to that square, and then you commit to doing 12 to 20 hours of birding in that square between May 28th and kind of the end of July. And then that's how we're covering these squares off. You don't have to submit data from just your square. If you happen to be driving through some other square, some other place in Saskatchewan, and you see a bird carrying nesting material or whatever you see, you can still enter that data in to the Atlas website, and we'd love to have that data. But this is just what we're asking. If you want to do a square, you're the one covering that square. So that is the Saskatchewan Breeding Bird Atlas website. I'm not going to cover data entry. We're going to do that in a separate video coming up next. But hopefully that helps. If you have comments or questions, you can leave those in the comments section below. So thanks for listening.